I usually just kind of eat by feel, I guess. I just try to eat more than I enough. And, being able to eat different products or drink different products, like I don't want to be set on one thing because rarely are you able to actually get that in the race. And you guys spend all this time worrying about what feed I'm going to take when, and then you miss that feed and then you're screwed. And it's better just to be able to be flexible.
This is Andrew Vontz, and you're listening to Choose the Hard Way, where my guests share stories about how doing hard things builds stronger, more resilient humans. The show is free, and the one thing I ask is that if you enjoy it, please forward it to a friend who would dig it. I've been putting a lot of love into making Choose the Hard Way since 2018, and I'm working hard to reach more ears. Sharing is caring, so please pass this episode on to someone who enjoys doing hard things. Rate the show 5 stars wherever you listen, and sign up for the monthly newsletter at choosethehardway.com to get a drop of insights from recent episodes. Now, this episode is a little different than what we normally have on Choose the Hard Way. It's a special collaboration between Choose the Hard Way and the Beyond the Peloton podcast. On this episode, Beyond the Peloton creator and host Spencer Martin joins me to interview American professional cyclist Scott McGill. Scott has a uniquely adaptive approach to racing, and in this interview, he shares insights about the framework that has enabled him to be nimble, agile, opportunistic, and to produce breakthrough performances at the moment when big opportunities show up, like when he got a slot on the American World Championship squad. Scott seemingly came from out of nowhere to win 2 stages in the points classification at the Volta, Portugal, got selected to the American World Championships road squad, and made it into a breakaway at the beginning of that race that lasted several hours. It was quite a remarkable ride. And as he announced on this episode for the first time, he'll join the Human Powered Health Team in 2022 and race a full schedule in Europe. Now, if you're new to Choose the Hard Way, I'm Andrew Vontz. I'm a former executive at Strava, the social network for cyclists and runners, and I help Strava to reach profitability and to grow the Strava community from 7 million to over 100 million athletes in 195 countries during my 7 years there. I spent the first decade of my career as a journalist, writing for outlets including Rolling Stone, Outside Magazine, the Los Angeles Times, and dozens of other publications. At TRX, the human performance company started by a former Navy SEAL, I was the head of content and helped the brand become ubiquitous and loved worldwide. I've spent 25 years telling and shaping the stories of the world's top performers, brands, and businesses. And today, I advise and consult with businesses and nonprofits. And if you'd like to work with me, you can DM me at HardwayPod. I've loved cycling. I wrote about the Tour de France for Fox Sports for several tours. I've penned dozens of articles about pro cycling and training for Velo News, Bicycling, Outside, and many other outlets. And I've been involved in the sport as a participant, a racer, and a lover of its culture for over 35 years. Throughout 2022, I've been a frequent co-host of Spencer Martin's Beyond the Peloton podcast. Spencer's Beyond the Peloton newsletter has the best analysis of pro cycling available, and if you enjoy deep dives into pro racing, give his podcast a follow and subscribe to his Substack. You can find those links in the show notes. To learn more about Scott, go to @Scott McGill Jr. on Instagram, and you can find Spencer's newsletter and his podcast at beyondthepelotonblog.com. If there's another podcast that you'd like to see me do a collaboration with, you can let me know in the comments or DM me at HardwayPod on social. You can find past episodes of this show at choosethehardway.com. I will say that I first became aware of you when I saw you in the breakaway at the World Championships that Spencer just talked about. It was awesome to see you up there and to see America represented in the break. Looking forward to talking about that today and talking about pro cycling, what's going on in the United States, and get some of your other thoughts on what's happening in the sport. So thanks so much for joining us, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we should start there because Andrew and I were watching. The race was late at night here. we're watching. We don't know what the heck's going on. It was kind of poorly produced. Looked like it was really hard. You guys go up the first climb. I think it was Mount Kira. Chaos ensues, and then we're like, whoa, there's an American in the break. Who is it? Whoa, he's on a tarmac, like a rim brake tarmac. What's happening here? He has a split nose saddle. We don't recognize this person. And then I figure out it's Scott McGill of the Wildlife Generation Pro Cycling Team, which is, that's like a team that a lot of people that I might do group rides with in Boulder are on. So I was like, wow, this is like a real American racer here. This isn't some fancy Euro pro. So Scott, do you want to talk about that moment, like what that meant for your career and like what brought you there? Like how did you get into cycling, and then how did you end up off the front of the World Championships?
Yeah, how did you get in that breakaway? Because again, watching the broadcast, it was totally unclear. Just suddenly you were off the front, and I think your group had a 3-minute lead on the pack.
Yeah, I guess our plan going into the race, I was kind of able to look for the breakaway along the coast. Like, there was 30 Ks before we got to Mount Kira, which was the first climb. So usually if you tell me to look for the breakaway, I'm going to get in the breakaway just because I like racing, that type of racing. So I just basically followed every attack until in the beginning part of the race and you could like tell that, the bigger nations wanted a break to go, before the climb. And then ended up in the breakaway, and that was kind of to try to anticipate the race blowing up from behind. So I'm not the strongest like pure climber out there. So if I can get ahead of the race and then be in the race later in the race, as the groups of favorites come up to the breakaway, that was kind of the idea going into the race. So it ended up working just like that, and the race did end up like exploding on Kira, I guess, a little bit. So yeah.
And you guys were out there forever. I mean, getting in front of the race, never a bad idea at World Championships, but you were out there for hours. I mean, it must have been like 3 or 4 hours you guys were off the front, and then Evenepoel catches you. Do you want to talk about that? What was that like when he comes up from the Peloton and gets into your group? Was he going just like unbelievably fast, or did you think like, oh, I can hold this guy's wheel and out sprint him?
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea what was like happening behind. The time gaps were just like we got a 7-minute time gap at one point, and then I was like, oh, nice, like that's we'll probably make it pretty far. And then I got like a 2-minute time gap, and then I guess that is when they raced up Kira super hard, and the gap went down by 5 minutes, which is a lot. But I didn't know if that was like somebody who got dropped from the break, that was the gap to them. Because sometimes they'll just give a gap to like the next guy, but it's not actually the Peloton. And they didn't label anything on the whiteboards or anything like that. So, and then the car came up to me maybe as we were entering the circuits. And that was the only time I had any communication with the car. And they just said the race is exploding behind. So then we just kept, rolling through, trying to, keep a steady pace through the circuits. And then when the group with Evenepoel came up, and Nielsen Palace was in that group, and we just kind of like exchanged a few words, and I was like, what do you want me to do here? Because I was like, I had no idea what had happened in the race, because I was just, rotating in a pace line in the front. But then I was like, all right, for sure, next time up the climb, I'll get dropped. Up the climb in the circuit, was it like Mount Pleasant or something?
Yeah, I think it was Mount Pleasant.
Yeah. But then that time they ended up going like super slow for some reason up the climb. So I made it like a whole nother lap, still in the front group, I guess. And then did what I could to help Nielsen, like position him for the climb or whatever. Because that was kind of the idea, was that I was there for the end of the race.
So Scott, there's been a lot of post-race analysis and discussion about, number one, race radios and the impact. And if you're a casual listener or you haven't followed the World Championship super closely, in the World Championships, the UCI does not allow the use of race radios, which are used in all other races throughout the year. So there were no race radios. You didn't necessarily what was going on behind you, other than there is a motorcycle that does have a chalkboard or whiteboard that has time gaps. That also became a post-race controversy because apparently they were not highly accurate time gaps. So you didn't really have a lot of information out there off the front of the race. I'm curious, what was the dialogue among the riders, if any? Was everyone confused? Were people just drilling it? Like, what was happening, and what did that confusion do to the approach that you all took going deeper into the race?
I mean, the only real dialogue was other riders shouting at the motorcycle when the time gaps were clearly like wrong. You know, like we got a 2-minute time gap, and then it went back out to 7 minutes, which were like, what? Like that's not possible within like a 5-minute period. Like it's only been 5 minutes, but the gap can't grow by 5 minutes. So, but it ended up. I think it was just because there were so many groups on the road, and that they were just giving time gaps to different groups, and that's kind of where a lot of the confusion happened. But I just tried to not. I mean, there's nothing you can really do about it. You just keep rotating through and try to save as much energy as possible when you're in the breakaway. So that was kind of my thought process.
And do you guys have you have a team car? Like, and if so, who is in the team car? Is that person supplied by USA Cycling, or what's the team? Like, what is the team support you're getting at World Championships?
Yeah, I mean, we have like, you know, mechanics and soigneurs as well, and then the director was TJ Van Garderen for the elite men. So each category has kind of their own director, but then like Mike Sayers was also in the car, and then a mechanic. So that when they came up, and then they couldn't really pass the Peloton, so they were staying back with the Peloton rather than coming up with the breakaway. So a lot of my I had to use the neutral service for like gels and feeding and stuff. You know, they all had water and gels, and so I didn't really need the team car other than like to tell me what was going on. But I didn't really need to know what was going on. I was just kind of like curious.
And was the pre-race plan, like, did you guys sit down in the hotel the night before and Palace was Nielsen Palace was kind of your designated leader, and the goal was to try to get him as high of a finish as possible? Or was it just
pretty much
go out there and race, guys?
Yeah, Nielsen as well as Magnus. And it was kind of like an interesting group of riders that were selected. Like Keegan Swenson was on the team, and he hasn't really done much road racing, so we don't, you didn't really know what role he could play in the race. And then Nielsen and Magnus were kind of like the designated leaders, I guess.
And also, there were so many riders that chose to sit out World Championships this time around because it was in Australia. I don't know what your situation was, Scott, or if you can even talk about it, but it seemed like even at the World Tour level, many of the top riders in the sport were having to foot the bill for their own transportation. And it just seemed like a very complex and somewhat messy situation relative to other World Championships that happen in the Northern Hemisphere. Do you have any thoughts about that, or the impact that it had on racing? Did it have any impact on you or Team USA at all?
I mean, it probably had an impact on me because I wouldn't have gone without these, because another rider would have been selected. Also, like the relegation battle with the World Tour teams played a huge role in it. Like a few Americans were not able to go because they were told not to go by their trade team. And I had, being on a continental team, I didn't even think that I could go to the World Championships until we did a race in Portugal, the Volta, Portugal, and I was able to like win a few stages and the green jersey. So then I like checked the like selection criteria, I guess, like the day it was due to petition, and ended up submitting a petition to go to the Worlds, and then didn't really find out until maybe 2 weeks before.
That is crazy. I think I could optimize that selection process a little bit.
Well, I think it was because I was like a reserve rider.
Yeah.
And then they didn't know who was going to go until that point. So then I got the call up.
What does that petition process look like? What do you actually have to submit? Is it just your palmarès, like recent results? What do you have to submit?
Pretty much just your results and like why you think you should be selected, or like
So there's an essay component. You wrote an essay.
I did not write an essay. maybe I should have, and I would have been not been a reserve. But
Did you have to pay for your own travel there, or did they buy you a ticket?
They did not buy a ticket.
That is wild. I told you, Andrew. We were debating if like the gravel racers were getting support from USA Cycling, and it was my inclination that there's as little support as possible. I mean, that is, I guess we spend our money as a country in interesting ways, but you'd think that we could get people tickets to world championships. I think we're the wealthiest country in the world. Last time I checked.
Yeah, the staff and support at the race was very, very good. Like we had really good accommodations, probably the best out of any nation. And we had, plenty of soigneurs and mechanics to do everything. We had chefs. So the food was really good. Yeah, so they did a good job on that stuff.
And
did you have a middle seat? Sorry, Spencer, I have to know. Did you have a middle seat on the flight?
No, I think I paid like $30 to get not a middle seat, which was totally worth it.
That is the best.
Always is.
Yeah. What was the housing strategy? Were you guys in a hotel, or did they just rent a big house for everybody?
We were in like a apartment complex, and like everyone was in the same apartment complex, and then we had like 3 riders per like little room, like a short-term apartment thing, and then we had like a food room where everyone ate. So it was pretty nice, and a lot of other nations, like people were staying, and we were basically on the course, and a lot of other countries were staying like in Sydney, which was an hour away. And there was like some stories of teams with no Wi-Fi and like teams staying in little like huts on the beach, basically. We lucked out with the accommodations.
Yeah, I think Van der Poel maybe would have won the race if he would have been in your accommodations as opposed to
maybe
random Sydney hotel room. And I don't know what it is about Australia. They have some sort of shortage of Wi-Fi. Like the internet there is just like not fantastic. So I'm not surprised to hear people didn't have Wi-Fi.
Yeah. We had good Wi-Fi, so
that's great.
No
Scott,
there.
How long before the race did you arrive in Australia?
Like 9 days before the race. So I had a good amount of time.
You felt adjusted?
Oh yeah. Probably took like only 2 or 3 days, really. As long as you, I just like, when I got there, just stayed up until bedtime, even though I really wanted to like go to sleep. And then that, a few days I was waking up at like 3 a.m, just wide awake. But then after that, it's back to normal.
When did you find out that you actually were selected for the team?
Probably like after the Maryland race. So yeah, like 2 or 3 weeks before the race.
And did you get a call or an email? How did you find out, and what did that feel like?
I think it was just like a text, like, yeah, you're on the team. And then I had a pretty good like idea that I was going to get picked just because like of the riders that weren't able to go. It was more like I need to start training for this like stressful event. Anything. Like panic training.
So I'm just looking at the calendar. So Maryland Classic was September 4th, World Championship September 25th. I mean, you must have flown out. You must have heard and then basically bought a ticket right away and then gotten on a plane just a few days after that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty crazy month for you.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of travel. Coming from the East Coast in the U.S., it's like a lot because you have to go all the way to California, and that's like a lot, and then get on the 14-hour flight to Australia.
Yeah, yeah, that's tough. And well, just to back up for a second, you mentioned Volta, Portugal. That is like the hardest race that no one's ever heard of. It's a really, really hard race. I'm just looking at you. You won the points classification. You went 2 stages. You podiumed on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stages. I mean, that's a really impressive ride at that race. I would guess there's not many Americans that could have put up those types of stats at that race. I mean, what was that like? Did you go in and you had been racing, and had you been racing in Europe or racing in the US this year mainly?
We did a lot of I guess we did like a lot of racing in Turkey. We did the Tour of Rwanda, so that's in Africa, and then we did a few races in the US, like Joe Martin Nationals, and then a few crits, like in between to fill out the calendar. And then again with Portugal, we found out we were going like 2 or 3 weeks beforehand, so didn't have much time to train for that. That's definitely like the life of a continental level cyclist, is just not knowing anything or getting last minute invites, not much like planning your season or anything like that. So just did some panic training, and I guess I do well under when I'm panic training.
Did you find the racing hard to adapt to? Or I mean, clearly you adapted quickly if you did, but like what's the difference in, I mean, Joe Martin's a hard race. That's a race I've done, but it's big, wide open roads in Arkansas. And then you go to Portugal. I assume that's a much more technical race with a deeper field. Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, a lot of the stages like had technical finishes, like they finish in towns. And a lot of the whole town there is like cobbled. So every town you go through, there's like bottles flying everywhere and tight turns and everything. So yeah, I mean that kind of like the racing I like. I don't particularly like the racing on American roads just because it's more boring. There's less going on. Not that I don't like racing in America. Just I'd rather it be on a tight and twisty road with like a technical finish.
That's funny. That's what Keegan Swerble told me the same thing, where he just doesn't connect that well with he was on Rally last year. I don't know if he's going to be on it this coming year, but just didn't connect with the American style of racing. And he did really well at the Tour of Portugal the year before you did it in 2021. So after World Championships, I mean, it's a really impressive result. Like you're finishing behind the only Americans to beat you are Nielsen Palace, Magnus Sheffield. Sheffield's on Ineos, Palace is on EF. I think Keegan, you finished right around Keegan Swenson's spot, who's probably the top gravel racer in the US, if not the world. And did you get any interest from bigger teams, or are you going to be on Wildlife Generation next year? Like, what's the future look like at this point?
When does this podcast come out?
What do you think, Andrew? Soon, right?
When do you want it to come out, Scott?
It just hasn't been announced yet, so I don't want to, say it on a. But when will it come out?
We can hold it back for you if you need us to.
Yeah, then I signed with Human Powered Health for the next 2 years, so I will be joining what is formerly known as Rally Cycling, now known as Human Powered Health.
Congratulations.
Congrats. I was just thinking about this today. I was thinking, why don't they sign Scott McGill? They're struggling. They had his name is escaping me. He was U.S. national champion. Is it Ryan Murphy? Kyle Murphy?
Kyle Murphy.
Kyle Murphy didn't renew with them. I guess he just wanted to stay in the U.S. and race. That kind of leaves a natural gap for you to come in and fill there.
Yeah. I was rooming with Kyle at Worlds actually. So he did the Worlds. And he just wanted to race in the U.S. He's got like young kids and stuff like that. Stuff I don't have to worry about just yet. So just living in Europe is just harder for some people.
Yeah.
And what's your aspiration during the next 2 years of your career? Where do you want to go? What type of racing do you see as your sweet spot? What would you like to achieve?
Yeah, Human Powered Health does a lot of like 0.1 level and pro series level races. So that's kind of like races with like a few World Tour teams in them, but then the majority of it's pro continental and continental teams. So that will hopefully give me a chance to try to win a few races. Whereas if you're just getting your ass kicked all the time, it's not. We'll still do a few races. World Tour races, but kind of that level of racing in between, like your Joe Martin and Tour de Gila and World Tour, seems like a good sweet spot for a rider like me.
I mean, there's a good chance you guys could be at. There's kind of some funny stuff going on in that second division. I think you guys even did Tour of Switzerland this year and last year. So, I mean, you might find yourself at some races with some pretty stacked fields, basically the top level races. So that's going to be exciting. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, I believe they did Tour de Suisse the last couple of years.
And are you going to relocate to Europe or are you going to stay in the U.S.?
That is the plan, but I haven't figured out all the details. I only signed a few days ago, so I gotta work on that.
And yeah, you just have to learn Catalan in a week. Panic learning of languages as you panic train, and then move to Girona, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
No sweat. So what does your winter training look like?
Right now I'm doing a few cyclocross races. And that was just kind of my plan before I ended up joining Human Powered Health. So I'm this weekend I'll be doing the Pan American Championships, which are in Massachusetts. And then I haven't really made any plans yet, but typically I'll go to North Carolina and train down there because it's just slightly warmer and the riding is phenomenal. And that's where I went to school, so I got plenty of people to train with. So that's typically what I do, but we'll see what happens this year.
Andrew, do you want to ask about the rim brakes, or do you want?
Yeah, of course I do.
Yeah.
Scott, just so you know, this has been a topic of frequent discussion throughout 2022. I think we began the season with a discussion of rim brakes. And in addition to just being blown away to see you in that break at the World Championships, I think the next thing we thought after we thought, who is this rider and what have they done, was, wow, they're on rim brakes. This is a miracle. What's happening? So how did you end up on a rim brake bike? And yeah, it was a tarmac. Was that an SL6? It was probably the last year they made rim brakes, right?
Yeah, I guess it's an SL6. That's just the bike I was issued from the team. We stayed on rim brakes. Just being a continental level team, you kind of have to spend every dollar wisely. So to switch to disc brakes means you have to switch all your wheels. What is that? Maybe 20 or 30 sets of wheels. All the bikes, and then all the spare bikes have to be disc too. So it's kind of like a big undertaking for a smaller team, to switch over to disc brakes. So, I mean, I really don't care, honestly, what brakes I have, because I just make do with whatever I am provided.
Did you feel like you were a bit superior to the other riders, though, because you were on a faster wheel set that was somewhat lighter than what they were riding?
It didn't really cross my mind, honestly.
I think it's the thesis of this podcast that we find it so humorous that, I don't know, that Remco Evenepoel is on a heavier bike than Chris Froome was winning tours on 10 years ago. It's crazy. Because these disc brake bikes are so heavy. A lot of them are like tanks. So yeah, it's old tech. People don't want rim brakes anymore, but yeah, you're out there going up Mount Kira on a not insignificantly lighter bike, in my opinion. It probably did give you a little bit of at least a climbing advantage. I mean, maybe you could get into descending theory, and if you can brake later going into the corners and the disc brakes, it helps, but I don't know. I don't know if I totally buy that.
Yeah, I'm just glad it wasn't raining, because almost I think every other road race it was raining at the Worlds except for the elite men. So that was good.
Scott, you mentioned something else about the race itself that I think will be of interest to some of our listeners out there who are out there training and racing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like a lot of your nutrition during the race and your feeds was coming from neutral support, like you were taking bottles and gels just from a support car. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, we had people standing on the road as well, but
right.
Yeah, a lot of it came from the neutral support.
And I know a lot of amateurs put a lot of thought into their feeding strategies, making sure they're eating products that they're familiar with, that they're their stomach can handle or whatever. But it sounds like you were just like, hey, whatever, I need some carbs, whatever gels are available, I'm going to take. Did you have any kind of specific carb, grams of carb per hour strategy you were trying to stick to? Or were you just eating by feel? What were you doing during the race?
I usually just kind of eat by feel, I guess. I just try to eat more than enough. And, being able to eat different products or drink different products, like I don't want to be set on one thing, because rarely are you able to actually like get that in the race. And like, you guys spend all this time worrying about what feed I'm going to take when, and then you miss that feed and then you're screwed. And it's better just to be able to be flexible. And, this goes for like everybody, I think. Like, you can always borrow a gel off another team or steal a bottle from a team. You never know what's going to be in it. So if you kind of just are able to be flexible, it's better that way. And being, again, on a continental level team, it's not like we have, unlimited nutritional products to train with or anything. So it's not like I'm always training with one specific gel or anything like that.
When you go out on a training ride, what do you tend to take with you for nutrition? Do you use mix, or do you take gels or eat real food? What do you prefer?
Whatever I can find in my parents' house, honestly. Just kind of take
That'd
whatever.
Be hilarious if you were joining Ineos or something. You're like at your pre-season consultation. So what do you have before your rides? Couple cookies, Snicker bar, whatever's in there.
Yeah.
And that's really funny. You're ruining people's dreams right now. You're being very cruel. There's a lot of people out there who care very deeply about the nutrition who are being taught that they just don't have the talent to be a professional cyclist.
Maybe if I dialed it in more, I'm sure I could improve something, but it's just like you can only spend your energy thinking about so much stuff.
No, I totally agree with you. Andrew, your last guest on Choose the Hard Way, the team doctor, his name escapes me. Kevin Sprouse? Is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah. Team doctor for EF. He's been the team doctor there for a while. And I think maybe people my age and a little bit older who were pros maybe partied harder than current professionals, or maybe younger professionals. And he had an interesting insight that, there'd be guys in that team that would go home and just be raging when they weren't racing, and their results were not worse. Like their performances were roughly the same with the guys who live like monks now. So, there's something to be said for just not being so mentally locked in on stuff that I don't have a Martin gel, I'm going to lose my mind, or I can't ride my bike because I don't have the right gel. Like there's probably a freedom in that.
Yeah.
Where are my ketones? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can't have that magic bottle of ketones. So Scott, kind of in the same vein, whether it's the World Championships or the race in Portugal, what do you like before a race? Do you get nervous? Are you calm? What's it like?
I probably get pretty nervous. Definitely before a time trial for some reason. I'll be stressing about everything. I wouldn't say it's like nervous about the race. I'm just like worried that I forgot something or something like that, or like I want to make sure I got everything I need. But I'm not really nervous about like the racing, like I have to win or anything like that. Like especially road racing, you have the whole race to be nervous, right? It's usually a pretty relaxed start. Unless like at the Worlds, like I was trying to get in the breakaway, so I was like trying to line up at the front even before, even though there's a neutral, it's still hard to get to the front in the neutral. And then was trying to stay in the front in the neutral, which is easier said than done. So that was a little nerve-wracking, but yeah, depends on the race.
Was it surreal to be at Worlds and like you have like Wout van Aert there, Mathieu van der Poel, Remco Evenepoel? These are big stars. Tadej Pogacar. Like, was that great? Was that like a surreal experience, or were you just like, yeah, whatever? Like, I'm as good as these guys. Like, they're lucky to be racing with Scott McGill.
I didn't really race with those guys much because the breakaway was filled with more riders, similar to me, and like, so I never really got to like race with those big names, or even see them in the, like I saw them when they blew past me when I got dropped. That was pretty much it. So I didn't really get to like the breakaway had strong riders in it, but not those big favorites or anything like that.
And given that you knew you wanted to get in the break, I know Worlds specifically is a very long race, and that was definitely the case this year. It was a very long race with a lot of climbing. Did you get on the trainer and warm up before the race knowing you wanted to get into the break right away, or did you just warm up on the road?
No, I don't even think I warmed up. I just like pedal around to make sure my bike works, test it out. Maybe ride to go take a piss or something. That's about it.
Living that pro life. I love it.
No, I mean, you never know how your bike is going to like shift. I always try to ride around, check my brakes, check my skewers. When all the mechanics are working on your bikes, it's like they could make a mistake. So you check all those things. And
yeah,
I don't think I've ever warmed up for a road race.
So many dreams are crumbling out of Valmont Park right now. Hearing this podcast,
there's people doing more preparation for group rides in Boulder than you did for the World Championships.
I mean, definitely like a shorter race I'll warm up for, but when it's gonna be the World was like 6.5 hours or something, there's no need. I got plenty of time to warm up.
All right, so Scott, let's move in a different direction here just for a moment. As part of your racing calendar this year, you mentioned that you did some criterium racing. Given, where your talents seem to be suited and some of the results that you've gotten this year, what is it like for a rider of your ability level to jump into a domestic criterium, and how do you think about those races, and what is the level of difficulty?
There's some hard crits left in the U.S., like Armed Forces, which is a race in D.C., which is not far from my house. It's like a 100K crit on a 1K course with 5 corners, so you're doing 500 turns in the race. So that is, I love that race because it ends up splitting up in the end, and it's not just like a 60-minute 4-corner crit. And then, Bucks County, which is another hard crit. That's like pretty much it. The rest of them are, I guess, easy is a way to put it, but they're also like just a different set of skills, Like Justin Williams is the best at the 60-minute flat crit. He's better than anybody else. So like that doesn't mean that it's not easy to win because nobody wins it except him. I just prefer a harder race, like longer and physically harder race. Whereas, a lot of the crits are won on more tactics than like pure strength.
So if the Tour de France stage 1 this year was a 60-minute flat crit, I'm cracking up even thinking about it. Would Justin Williams win that stage, you think? Like, is there anyone better than him in the world?
I mean, I would say he'd have a pretty good shot. It would still probably be hard because it's the Tour de France. So I have no idea. But
this is before your time, but I think the Tour Down Under, I mean, I know this. I remember this vividly. Used to start with the criterium. So it was fascinating. You saw like the top riders and top teams in the world racing a crit, and they almost like would reach terminal velocity. They'd be going like 34 miles an hour for the whole race. And it would be interesting to see like the top crit specialists racing there and see what they could do.
Yeah. I think that was a hot dog shaped course, right? Didn't it have 2 U-turns?
Yeah. And that's where the tiny bar was invented. Like some Lotto Soudal riders came out with like really like 38 centimeter bars, and it blew everyone's mind. And like, oh, these are too small. You can't turn them. But obviously those would be standard now.
So gotta know, Scott, what width bars are you running?
40 centimeter bars. I think that's like pretty standard. But again, just kind of whatever. Like I think I asked for 40 centimeter bars, but then like you just kind of get whatever you get.
I think that's what Dan Bigham said about his hour record.
Yeah, they just gave him some random bars and he did that. Scott, I'm looking at your pro cycling stats profile is hilarious because it has like a little a slider for specialty. So it's like sprinter, you're all the way over, and then climber, you're all the way over. So according to pro cycling stats, you're both an elite climber and sprinter. Is that how you would describe yourself, or as you go to Europe, as you do bigger races, like what do you see yourself specializing in? And like if you're going to win a Grand Tour stage someday, like what type of stage would that be?
I'm definitely not a climber, so I don't know where there must be a issue with their algorithm or something, because that's not possible. But I'm definitely more of a sprinter type rider. But I'm not like a big highway sprinter. I like little uphill sprints or sprints, after like a little climb where the bigger sprinter guys who can't, get over like a small climb will get dropped. That's kind of my specialty, which ends up not being like that many races. But it happens that a lot of the races in Portugal were just like that. So that's, I think, why I was able to do so well.
Yeah, you're going to like Europe if that's the type of race you like. Yeah, but as you say, in the U.S., it's not, you don't get a ton of those. You kind of remind me a little bit of Travis McCabe, who was like king of the U.S. for a long time and won a U.S. Pro Championships, which was like shocking at the time because he wasn't on a European team, and then went to Europe. It got a little disrupted by COVID. I didn't think he really got a clean shot at it. But like, do you look at other Americans who have gone to Europe and try to learn from what they did, or learn from what didn't work? Or are you just kind of like confident that you seem like a confident person? Like you're not going to be rattled with the change in scenery and you're just doing your own thing.
No, I mean, I think it'll be all right. We spent almost 3 months in a hotel in Turkey and didn't really get fazed by that. So that
they might as well change the name of the Tour Turkey to Tour VPO. I mean, that is a hard race. There's a lot of really juiced up guys there.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but yeah, it was a good race. It was a fun place to hang out for a few months.
A few months? You were there for a few months?
Yeah. Yeah, we were there for February, March, and most of April.
What was that like?
It was good. I mean, the weather's good. The training was good. It's relatively inexpensive to do like a training camp there compared to doing it in the US. And the food's good. So it was a great place, and we did some races in between, and then did a training camp in between. So yeah, it worked out well.
Potential location for the next Choose the Hard Way by Beyond the Peloton listener experience camp. Maybe that's where we'll locate it. So Scott, I got to ask, how did you get on this path towards becoming a professional cyclist? How did you get started, and when did you know this might be something you'd end up doing for a living?
I started mountain biking with my dad, like a lot of people, when I was maybe 8 years old, and started doing races around then. My dad used to do a lot of 24-hour races, mountain bike races, where you are part of a team and you do laps for 24 hours, and each person goes one at a time. So we would go to those and just kind of hang out for the whole few days that it was going on. And then eventually started doing road races. And then through college did continue to do, cyclocross a little bit, mountain biking, and road. And then I guess just sided more to doing more road races than anything else. And was able to join a few development teams like Volta Cycling, a small team called Gateway Devo Cycling, which is out of St. Louis, and then eventually signed with Wildlife, and then now I'm here.
And when you were 8 and your dad started doing, or he was doing at the time, these 24-hour races, did that seem like a good idea?
Yeah. So the guy who was I guess that's what I thought bike racing was at the time. because that's what I was dragged to, So like, he's like, oh, there's these like shorter races we can do, and I was like, oh, I guess that's cool too.
So World Championships is like nothing to you, like 7 hours.
Yeah,
that's nothing.
And then the guy who had won, I think he won like 6 or 7 24-hour World Championships, and he did it solo. Went to the same high school as me, so and there's was a movie about him and stuff. So that's kind of where got most of my inspiration, I guess. His name's Chris Etoff.
Oh yeah.
And was there a lot of good? So you're from? We might have said this before we started recording. You're from Maryland.
Yep.
Northern Maryland, close to Baltimore. Is there good? So the Maryland Cycling Classic must have been a big moment for you. Were you like very excited to do that kind of on your home roads?
Yeah, I was, extremely excited. I've been like training on, the upper part of the course at least for 10 years. So it was cool to race on roads that I've been training on for so long, and to be able to, have like so many friends and family go see what I actually do with my life was cool.
Was there good mountain biking around the area when you were growing up? Was it easy to get out and?
Yeah. There's a trail system like a mile from my house. That's maybe like 30 or 40 miles of trails. It's not like, like in Brevard where there's like big mountain descents or anything like that, but it's a good place to go. Kind of, ride mountain bikes. Like I just ride my cyclocross bike on the trails all the time now. For practice.
Is that where you do most of your training these days, from your parents' house in Maryland?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm in and out of.
Camps?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't make it down to North Carolina much anymore, just because I'm traveling so much that I don't want to travel any more than I have to.
And Scott, for somebody your age with your level of ability coming up in the United States as a cyclist, it seems so many people in a similar situation are now moving in the direction of doing gravel racing rather than going deeper into road racing. Is that something that you've considered at all? Was it ever on the menu, or what led to your decision to go in a different direction?
I have never really considered it, honestly. I mean, I know that is a path that a lot of people have taken to make more money in the sport. But I'd rather kind of follow my passion than I can make money doing a lot of stuff. So I don't need to go race 200 miles on gravel and not really enjoy it. So there was even some opportunities to join like a crit team. But I decided to just hold off in the hopes of getting a contract with, a pro team or World Tour team. And it ended up working out. But that was kind of just a risk I was willing to take to follow what I'm more passionate about, rather than just doing something just for the money. Yeah.
Do you think if you were 14 instead of 24, like, would you be drawn to gravel? Like, do you ever even get into road racing? Or are you drawn to gravel racing, or would you just still have that passion for? I'm a big fan of road racing. It's kind of my career covering it, but I know Andrew's a big gravel head. But would you still have been drawn towards road racing, you think?
I mean, it's hard to say, but probably, just because, the Tour de France is such a big thing in American households, I guess, like just, the average household. And that's road racing. I don't know if many, like, people who aren't involved in cycling know what unbound gravel is, right? So like, yeah, I would say I just would still lean towards the road racing, but it's hard to say. I don't know. I don't know if many people like aspire to do unbound as like if you're like a little kid. I don't know. I couldn't envision that.
I can't believe anyone's doing it, period. It's like, I grew up really close to the course, and like, I remember when people started doing it, I'm like, I don't know, 200 miles on really hard gravel. That seems hard. I would like to do a shorter race than that, please.
I've just never, really got into the gravel thing. I've done one gravel race. That was enough.
What was the race?
2021. It was like just more of a local gravel race, honestly.
And when you were at Worlds, did Keegan Swenson attempt to turn you? Did he try to draw you over to the world of gravel? Did he try to put a flat brim Monster Energy hat on you or anything?
No, I don't think he tried to do that. He no.
What was that like having Keegan on as a teammate? From my research, I couldn't find any like high level professional road race that he'd ever done. Obviously, he's a very good bike rider. Were you guys like, hey, so Keegan, they're going to start and there might be a breakaway and we've got to try to like, or did he just kind of like naturally understand the dynamics of a high level road race?
He definitely knew he was out of his element a little bit. Like he wasn't afraid to ask, not necessarily like a dumb question, but like he had, he was like, all right, so what do I do? Like he didn't try to act like he knew what he was doing, right? Which was good, which is exactly what I would have hoped. Yeah, it was cool having him on the team. Just kind of like talking to somebody from that side of the sport was interesting.
I thought he had a pretty impressive. I mean, just finishing a Worlds is hard. Like that's an impressive result in my book. The fact that he finished it, I was kind of blown away by. That's a really, really good result.
Yeah, that for sure. Finishing that race especially was pretty difficult.
And so, as you were coming up, racing, like what's the process like? I see you said you were on Evolo, and then Wildlife, and then Human Powered Health after this. Like, are you after every season or during the season in anticipation of the next season, like reaching out to directors or just trying to find contacts of people on these teams that you think would be a better fit for you? Or was Human Powered Health reaching out to you? Was Wildlife Generation reaching out to you? Like, what's the back room of that look like?
A little of both. Definitely like introducing yourself to directors like in person goes a long way, I think. So I try to do that as much as possible. And reaching out or just trying to stay in the loop and keep your name in a director's mind. That way, when you actually do something in a race, they're like, oh, that guy, sent me an email a couple weeks ago, and then you might have a better chance of getting a contract. So yeah, it's a little of both, but definitely almost constantly reaching out to directors and team owners.
And is that typically, you mentioned emails, is this typically email, text messages, seeing people at the races, or is there a component, as we've seen, particularly in gravel now, where social media is so important to how riders seem to do everything? Does that matter at all in the world of road racing?
Not with the teams that I have been a part of so far. As far as like, I mean, you try to do your best with social media. I'm personally terrible at social media. I don't enjoy like talking about myself on the internet, although that's what I'm doing right now. But as far as like on Instagram or anything like that, I'm not really that into it. So that's probably a downside for me. But we haven't had many, social media requirements or anything with the teams that I've been on in the past.
We've seen a lot of top riders, whether it's Wout or Tade, putting out rap videos during the Tour de France. Do you think you have a rap video in your future?
I'd do it. Like, I'm not very musically gifted, so it would be entertaining, I guess.
Well, if you're signed for Astana next year, then you might have to do the rap video. That's become kind of a tradition of theirs at this point.
Yeah, I'd be down for sure.
They like to spit bars. Yeah.
There was like a period when, I don't know what, I think it was because Specialized, like the top Americans would get funneled to Astana via Specialized, the bike company. And what a ride that must have been. I can't imagine that was the best development situation for those guys. So just be lucky that you're coming along at a slightly later time than that.
Yeah.
Andrew, did you have any more? We don't want to take up too much of your time. We know you have your nutrition plan, your detailed nutrition plan to go sketch out for tomorrow.
You got to go see if anything fell out of a cabinet in your parents' kitchen to take on your ride tomorrow.
You went trick-or-treating to get the next month worth of on-bike nutrition.
Yeah, we definitely have some leftover candy because nobody comes to our house for trick-or-treating. So,
yeah, Scott, I don't know if you have any personal sponsors, but if anybody from the feed is listening, I think there's a great cross-branding opportunity to do with you. It could be called the McGill Grab Bag, and it could just be like a mystery musette that someone could hand up at any point in a ride. The rider wouldn't know what they're getting. It could be you could put a raw turkey breast in there, like whatever. Like, let's see what this kid can do. You know?
Yeah.
I like it. I think the feed might be maybe I'm wrong. They might be a sponsor of Human Powered Health. This might become a reality quicker than we think.
We'll see.
Yeah, we lit the fire here today, and now it'll burn throughout 2023 and 2024. That's what we like to do, Scott.
And actually, I just thought of one more thing I wanted to ask you. So you're in November, is this kind of a relaxed time of year for you, or are you like already thinking about starting to build fitness back up for next season?
Well, since I'm doing cyclocross, it's not that relaxing because 1, I'm racing a good bit, and then 2, every race, all my bikes and wheels get destroyed. So I spend a lot of time cleaning and fixing things and gluing stuff. And so it's not that relaxing, I guess, but I'm training I'm at least going to race through the next 2 weekends and then decide where to go from there. But like I said, I made these plans before I had a contract for next year, so we'll see.
So you're not going to Ibiza with Primož Roglič and your future competition, just blowing off steam in the Mediterranean as is tradition in the World Tour. No,
okay. I'm just hanging out at home.
It's a good place to hang out.
Yeah. Are you crushing people in these cross races? What's the situation there?
I would no. I mostly, take myself out of contention by crashing or breaking my bike or something like that, just because I haven't been riding my cross bike that much recently. But I did one race after Worlds the weekend after, and then took 2 weeks completely off the bike, and then just started back up this past weekend. So just getting back into it a little bit, kind of doing like what Wout and Pidcock do, where they take a break and then start doing cross to get back into training.
Do you have a coach? And if so, what was their response to you flying back from Sydney and then doing a cross race right after the World Championships?
Yeah, I do. And the only reason I did it is just because it was in Baltimore. So it was at home. So, or I wouldn't have traveled to a race after that because it was pretty brutal.
Which race was it?
Charm City Cross, which it was part of the USCX series. So that's the big series in the US.
Yeah.
Right. And that was Vincent Bastian's won that race, right?
Yep. He won the first day, and then Curtis White won the second day.
Is this the Belgian you were referencing, Andrew, who wins his career comprises of winning early season American races and then taking a back seat once he gets back to Europe?
Yeah, he does well in European World Cup racing, but he's in the teens. Typically, he's not a top 10 rider by any means, and he comes to the US early in the season for the past few seasons. It just absolutely destroys the American pros. I got a little more information off air from some sources. So I think his wife has family on the East Coast, and that's why he comes over to do these early season races. And if I'm wrong, please hit me up on Twitter at Vontz or at HardwayPod. Let me know the reality of the story, but that's what a source told me. So I've investigated this a bit. I was like, wow, this guy comes over and just absolutely destroys everybody every year. But I guess it's just part of a family vacation, seeing some family, and just casually destroying the American domestic cyclocross community.
He's like, why is everyone going so slow? What's the deal here? Did they not start racing cross when they were 6 months old?
But yeah, I mean, Scott, you've been out there, you've raced with him. What's it like?
With Vinny?
Yeah.
I mean, he's definitely like one of the smartest racers out there for sure. Yeah, but like I said, I usually like Charm City. I had good legs, but just could not. I like broke a shoe and like crashed pretty hard and just couldn't ride my bike very well. Coming back from Australia and then doing a race like 4 days later was not the best plan.
Had you been running at all? We this just, Scott, as an aside, one of the other things we've explored on the podcast this year was the information that Primoz Roglic goes running every day before he does bike races. We thought was quite interesting. But for you, I mean, jumping into cross, you are running a lot. I don't know do you run barriers or do you bunny hop, but you're off the bike a lot and it's using your body in a very different way than you do when you're road racing.
I run now, but I don't do any running like during the road season.
You didn't run, for example, the morning of Worlds. You didn't go out for a run to wake your legs up?
Nice 5K. Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't recommend it. I'm not quite sure what Primoz is thinking there, but yeah, I wouldn't start running before races.
Or maybe you should if you want to win a couple of Grand Tours. Maybe
I don't want to be responsible for ruining your career. Please don't do this. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Scott. It was. Wait, you didn't ask about the split saddle. Andrew, do you have a question about this? The split nose saddle?
Yeah, it's So the split nose saddle, is that just team issue equipment, or is that a saddle that you choose to ride, or what's the story?
It is a team sponsor, but it's definitely like my favorite saddle I've ever ridden. So I'll probably ride them next year as well, hopefully.
You're going to be like you're like reverse colonizing Europe with the split nose saddle. They're going to be blown away by it.
It looks funny, but it's very comfortable, and I don't have any issues. So, that's kind of what you want out of a saddle.
Indeed. Those are indeed good qualities in a saddle. You don't commonly see them in the World Tour. So it was, in addition to the revelation of seeing you on rim brakes, also seeing you on a split nose saddle made you stand out quite a bit.
All right. Well, thanks for taking the time to join us. And Andrew, thanks for bringing the heat with this was like a Frost Nixon style interrogation from you to Scott. So that was amazing to watch. And I hope everyone enjoyed listening, and good luck next year. It's going to be exciting to watch you step up a level and take your talents to some big races in Europe.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much, Scott. Good luck next season, and thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening. This show is free. All I ask is that you take a moment to share it with a friend who enjoys doing hard things, and to rate the show 5 stars wherever you listen. If you'd like to get our monthly newsletter with insights from recent episodes, sign up at choosethehardway.com. Choose the Hard Way is produced and edited by Anthony Palmer at Palm Tree Podco. Thanks to Emily Miles for digital support. The content for this show is created by me, Andrew Vontz.